So, panagdait sa tanan ug sa tanang kabuhatan. So, we are the group 8 and today we will be discussing about the social work helping models and approaches. So, the steps involved in the social work helping process were discussed regardless of the field or setting. Social workers who engage people in direct helping relationships are expected to do assessment, planning, intervention, or plan implementation, evaluation, and termination. Many different activities are undertaken corresponding to each of these steps in helping process. So danhi, makuna na nato ang planning, intervention, implementation, evaluation, and termination. Danhi na siya ma-discuss sa social work, helping models and approaches. So, in this chapter, different social work models and approaches to provide the social work with an overall guide, particularly in her planning and actual interventive work are discussed. Depending on the nature of the client's problem, situation, the worker can choose one or more of these models approaches as her helping strategy. So danhi, pwede ang social work mamili og one or more para kung unsa iyang gamiton nga strategy para makakatabang sa problem sa iyang client. So first, for individual, groups and communities, direct provision model, intercession, mediation model, mobilizing in the resource of client system to change their social reality, crisis intervention approach, and problem-solving model. Second, for individuals and group, task-center model, psychosocial approach, functional approach, behavior modification, and family intervention. Third, for groups, a developmental approach, interactionist approach, and remedial approach. Fourth is for communities, community development models, social planning model, and social planning model, social action model. So last is indirect models in intervention, working with the elite and documentation, social criticism, and advocacy. So first, the first model is the direct provision model. So, the poverty situation in the Philippines call for direct provision or various forms of material assistance to different needy and disadvantaged individuals and groups which we find in practically all parts of the community. Many agency social services are centered in this activity while countless others have it as an important aspect of their programs. So dari sa direct provision model, tani siya ma-describe na to siya as accommodation for food, medical services og kay di ba sa Philippines ang main problem here is poverty. So ang direct provision murag way siya para makatabang sa mga disadvantaged group or sa mga client nga nagsuffer og poverty. Mo ay kwan sa direct provision model. So the goal of this model is, according to Niederman, is the enhancement of client social functioning through the direct provision of material aid useful in eliminating or reducing situational deficiencies. Others refer to this as resource provision, where resource may be mobilized, created directly, furnished, the client may be advised and counseled in making optimal use of them. So ang goal na rin is Niederman is ang direct provision kay sa may way para sa makuan ang client sa social functioning niya, dapat naa siya gamiton ang direct provision manner. Kay if ever kung naa na siya taga na siya medical care ay medical assistance, dayon ay kanang financial assistance og food, money or something like that, kay social naa na siya well function na sa dani sa ato ang society. So, Niederman states that this model involves the direct administration of existing programs of material aid, which in turn involve any one of all of the following activities. First is case-by-case involvement of the client in the study, an evaluation process, determination of need and forms of need meeting. Second is determination of eligibility within the administrative agency terms of reference. Third is a judgment that the provision of the service or benefit will promote the client's best interest, that it will not have counterproductive consequence which could be overlooked by the untrained observer. And fourth is recruiting, selecting, training, supporting, and collaborating with personnel offering direct care. Example, homemakers and foster parents or adopted parents, health personnel, trainers, daycare workers. So the second model is the intercession mediation model. So intercession mediation model or intervention involves the process of negotiating the service jungle for clients, whatever singly or in group. The worker here connects the client to need service in the system until he has availed of the worker activities here include but also beyond the mere giving of direction of information as where need services are available. Workers play a variety of roles in this client's behalf: helper, interpreter, facilitator, expeditor, escort, negotiator, and broker, etc. to ensure rapid service delivery. So danhe si worker, pwede siya mo-cater or isa ra ba ka client or group client. Nga ang one is service jungle. Like, ang lahi bitaw problema pero i-cater jud siya sa worker bitaw mooy kwan ni intercession mediation model. So intercession mediation model is applied in the context of social work helping process, meaning that the worker has to do assessment, planning, intervention, evaluation, and termination. So dari ang worker magbuhat siya og assessment, planning, intervention, evaluation, and termination para sa problem sa iyahang client. So mobilizing the resource of client system to change their social reality. Model of intervention is premise on the belief that the problems are not always due to personal inadequacies but often to deficiencies in social reality, and that if people are to be helped, the target of attack should be latter. It can use to help individual clients, groups, and communities. Problem Filipino clients cannot be underestimated. With the awareness of their number, they can help realize that through group effort or at self-help, they can improve their life situation. Group can also be helped to organize themselves in order to work for the provision of facilities, services, opportunities they need. And also, all of this giving meaning to people empowerment, which is emerging as very important to learn in social work. So, danhe sa model of intervention, dapat magtinabangay ang tanan kay para na sila people empowerment, makagain og people empowerment kay para dito ka ng self-help, dito magtinabangay sila para na sila'y mag-gain. Something like that, mao ang model of intervention. So, and also the crisis intervention approach. This seemingly an ending of crisis situation that confront people in our country require our social work practitioner to use an approach that is appropriate and therefore truly helpful. So, crisis and crisis intervention. Crisis is defined as an upset in a steady state, an emotional reaction on the part of an individual, family, or group of a threatening life event. To be in a state of crisis means that there is a temporary disturbance in one's equilibrium, characterized by immobilization, problem-solving abilities, and their aspect of daily functioning. So, crisis intervention is a process of actively influencing the psychosocial functioning of individuals and groups during a period of acute disequilibrium. And it is made of brief treatment that can be used in any social work setting and with any target population under stress. To be really effective, crisis intervention should be available within 24 to 72 hours after application or referral for assistance. Involves warm, empathic, reaching out, and what is called search-find approach. Participation is always voluntary and the client should be committed to the change process. So, dapat, si worker, dili ra siya dapat ang kanang murabitaw na ay kung sa duha. Dapat ang magtinabangay dapat ang worker o ang client. Kung saan pag-help sa worker, kung ang client, dili siya kanang dili siya murag something committed sa ilaha bitaw, like dili siya gusto matabangan niyang kaugalingon. Unsaon pag-help sa worker kung walay participation ang client, murag mao ang gipasabot danhi. So, crisis intervention with families and groups include the following target population. First is individuals in crisis. Second is those associated with persons in crisis. Third is those in collective crisis. If only requires that the client should be in state crisis affected by person in crisis, willing to seek help or be referred to help and also sustain a relationship with a helping person for a brief period of treatment. Dapat, if si client ay yung client ng takay, willing siya mangayog tabang, willing siya magpatabang siya ang kagalingon, willing siya mangayog ay magkuan bitaw og seek siyang treatment, something like that. Mao ang kuan danhi sa crisis intervention. The helping process increases. Naomi Golan offers a treatment model that is rooted in problem-solving theory of casework and development as part of the short-term, task-centered approach to practice. The model divides intervention into 3 phases. First phase is assessment. Second phase is implementation. Third is termination. So, the following is Golan's description of these phases. Assessment of the situation. This first phase involves mainly an evaluation of 5 components of client situation, determine whether a crisis exists and what its current status is. Then his assessment is i-identify niya dari jud is unsay adjud ang problema sa client. And second is first is the hazardous event. This is a specific stress-producing occurrence, either an external blow or internal change that occurs to an individual or family in a state or relative stability in its biosocial situation, initiating a chain or reverberating actions and reactions. Second is the vulnerable or upset state. This refers to objective reaction of the individual or family to the initial blow, both of the time it occurs and subsequently. Third is the precipitating factor of event. This is the link in the change of stress-provoking happenings that brings tension to a peak and convert vulnerable state into one of crisis. Fourth is the state of active crisis. This refers to individual subjective condition once tension has stopped. The homeostatic mechanism no longer operate and this disequilibrium has set in. The state of reintegration or reorganization. This is the adjustments either adaptive and integrative or maladative and destructive that takes place as a disequilibrium subsidies. Initial interview is a crucial of crisis interview. The worker focuses immediately on the here and now, finding out the essential details and precipitating event. It scoops and liberally the persons involved. She does a primarily sweep of the applicant current condition, both subjectively as reported by the clients and or collateral and objectively as observed in the interview. His dysfunction in feelings, thoughts, behavior, and physical condition. She checks the significant role in networks to determine how widespread the disturbance is as the main effect and previous effect taken to deal with the situation. The practitioner should be clear about her goal in doing crisis intervention. Lydia Rapoport lists the following goals for this approach. First is relief of symptoms. Second is restoration to the optimal pre-crisis level of action. Third is the understanding of the relevant precipitating events that contributed to the state of disequilibrium. Fourth is identification of remedial measures that can be taken by the client and the family or that are available through community resources. Fifth is recognition of the connection between the current stress and the past life experience and conflicts. Six, initiation of new models of perceiving, thinking, and feeling, and development of new adaptive and coping responses that can be useful beyond the immediate crisis situation. The last two goals are indicated when an individual's personality and social situations are favorable and there is an opportunity to do that. All these goals aim to cushion the impact of the stressful event by offering immediate emotional first aid and by strengthening the persons in coping and integrative struggle through the spark, therapeutic and clarification and guidance. Danhe, tagaan sila o ganitong first aid, ganitong dili sila magwan og mental issues, dili ma-depress ang isa ka tao, moong na sila first aid and strengthening persons in coping integrative struggle through the spot and therapeutic clarification and guidance. Moong kwandare, gipasabot. Can anybody do crisis intervention? Jacobson and his associate answer this question as they suggest two treatment approaches. The first is the genetic approach. So this is a specific situation and maturational crises which do not require assessment of the psychodynamics of the individual increases. It can be done by a paraprofessional, a non-mental health professional, or community caregiver. Second is the individual approach, designed for use by mental health professional. This approach emphasizes assessment of the interpersonal and intraphysic process of each process of a person's in crisis, which particular attention given in the unique aspect of the particular attention given to the unique aspect of the particular situation and the solution specifically tailored to help the client return to a new steady state. So, implementation of treatment. This middle phase is about setting up and working out specific tasks, primarily by the client but also by the worker and significant other. Designed to solve specific problems in the current life situation, to modify previous inadequate or inappropriate ways of functioning and to learn new coping patterns. Golan present two categories of tasks involved the crisis intervention which may be carried out concurrently. First is the material arrangement task, which are concerned with the provision of concrete assistance and services. And second is psychosocial tasks, which are concerned with dealing with clients' feelings, doubts, ambivalence, anxieties, and despair, which also help to carry out what both worker and client agree and need to be done. So, the following treatment techniques are used in this crisis intervention. First is the sustaining techniques, with the reassurance and encouragement predominant to lower the anxiety, guilt, and tension and provide emotional support. Danhi, mag-provide og emotional support. Like, tagaan mo siya kanang bitong mga words nga, murag, maka-lift up bitaw siyang emotion, something like that nga, dili siya something depressed, o murag, something like, iha bitong ano na yan, kagalingon, kanang bitong, ato siyang tagaan siya advice nga, murag, di siya ma-depress or di siya ma-trigger yung anxiety. Second is direct influence procedures, like giving advice, particularly with the clients is feeling overwhelmed and needs help in choosing a course of action, and warning clients of the consequence of maladaptive resolution of the situation. 3 is direct invention. In extreme situations such as threats or of an attempt at suicide where the client is discerning rapidly. Fourth is reflected discussion technique as the clients become more integrated, e.g. of her current and recently past situation patterns of interaction. Golan, of course, called out our attention to the need to do environment work and activity with collaterals within the agency itself, other professionals in the community, as well as other support system to achieve rapid reintegration for the person in crisis situation. So, termination. As the end of the time-limited helping relationship nears, worker and the clients review their progress, focusing on key themes and basic issues. Emphasis is placed on the task accomplished, adaptive coping patterns developed, and the ties built with the person and resources of the community. Future activity with the client will be on his own is planned. The case ends and the worker making herself available and as needed basis should new crisis occur. So then is a termination, then he end na ang something like ang kanang relationship bitaw nga di po relationship nga love relationship, something like kanang relationship as a worker o as a client. Ila nang i-end like ang client dapat makastand na siya sa ang mao ang point sa termination. Ang social worker igo na lang siya magkuan kung unsay dapat buhaton sa client, then muhawa na siya, then ang client siya na magbuhat ato murag ihatong buhatan to mga dapat giingon sa worker. Kaya mo na terminate naman ang relationship nilang terminate naman ang relationship as a worker and client. Dapat makastand na siya as his own or her. Golan points out that it increases approach the worker's stand is active, purposive, and committed, conveying the message that she knows that she is doing and is willing to take risks. The problem-solving model. Helen Harris Perlman, the main proponent of the problem-solving approach in social work, acknowledged that although many individuals and theorists influenced her thinking, it was a social psychologist and educator philosopher, John Dewey, who spurred her interest in the matter of how people think and manage to cope. She, in fact, Dewey terms problem-solving as the name of different concept of social work practice that is departure from then already established Freudian-based psychodynamic diagnostic social of thought in social casework. Elements of the problem-solving approach. As Perlman states, and the usual active elements of the model are a person beset by a problem, seeks help within a problem from a place, either a social agency or some other social institution, and is offered such help by a professional worker. Worker uses a process which is simultaneously engages and enhances the person's own problem-solving functions and supplements the person's own problem-solving resources. So, the person is viewed as the product of inherent and constitutional makeup in continuous transaction with potent persons and forces in life. The problem. The model is based upon the presence of an identification between the help seeker and the helper of a problem for which help is being either sought or offered. This model takes into consideration the place which utilizes casework as a model of helping people with problems. Relationship diagnosis and goal. Two factors are important in the problem-solving approach: relationship and the involvement and effect of significant others, persons, and social circumstances within the help seeker problematic network. The primary goal of the models is to help a person cope as effectively as possible with the problems in carrying in social tasks and relationships which are perceived, felt as stressful, and found insuperable without outside help. So, kaning model, ang iharad yung goal ani is kanang itong mapadali ang pag-solve sa problema sa isa ka client. Kanang itong mo siya like igiingon strategy ni siya para mas madali ang mas magpadali ang usang pagtabang sa isa ka client sa iyang problem ay sa mga problem na iyang gipang face. So the task-centered model, the term task-centered is used to describe many different social work interventions. The task-centered model is a technology for alleviating specific target problems perceived by clients that is particular problem clients recognize, understand, acknowledge, and want to attend to. A task is defined as what the client needs to do to alleviate the problem, which makes the task both an immediate goal for the same time that means of achieving the goal for alleviating the problem. The following are the distinguishing characteristics of this approach. First is it is a brief and time limited. Second is its interventions are concentrated and elevating specific problem which are the client and the practitioner expressly contact to work on. Third is Work on the client's problems is organized around the task of problem-solving actions the client agrees to carry out. The approach to practice can be used with many types of clients in many social work settings. Its main target are people whose problems are in the area of family, interpersonal relations, social role performance, affecting social transition, securing resource, and emotional distress reacted to situation factors. Features of the model: assessment, case planning, implementation, and task. Ang kwan radyo niya is, of course, dapat na kay pag mag-help sa client, dapat na first ang guwatan siya assessment, case planning, implementation, task. Dapat na ani mga features. Dahil sa module na niya siya ani mga features dapat kaning assessment, case planning, implementation, and task. The task-centered model with groups. It also used in work with small groups including families. It involves the following steps: primary interview, group composition, group formation, group process, task accomplishments. According to Epstein, the task-centered approach can be adapted to better fit particularly suiting particular client's group problems and the comfort and convenience of the practitioner. The psychosocial approach. Psychosocial approach in social work used to be associated with Freudian theory or personality and was often referred to as the organismic approach and the diagnostic school of thought. The phases of the psychosocial approach. First is initial phase. Second, B is the assessment of the client in his situation. And maura to siya, dayon kani siya 3 types of diagnosis are used in this approach. First is dynamic, second is etiological, third is classificatory. So, maura to siya.
There are 3 types of diagnosis that are used in psychosocial approach, and those are the dynamic, etiological, and the classificatory. The dynamic is the interplay between the client and the other systems. The dynamics of family interaction. The etiological is the cause of origin of the difficulty, usually multiple factors in the person's situation configuration. Ang classificatory kay an effort to classify various aspects of the client's functioning and his place in the world. Sa classificatory, it is to classify various aspects of the client functioning and his place in the world, including this may include classifying individuals according to socioeconomics, class, race, ethnic background, and religion, social class status by way of education, occupation, and income. So the clinical diagnosis, it refers to classifying based on the personality disturbance, including the psychosis, the psychoneurosis, and the character disorder or etc., the other personality disturbance. The clinical social workers in the United States can train sila to use the diagnostic classification and to treat the clients accordingly. The clinical social work practitioners are licensed to do private practice just like psychiatrist and clinical psychologist. Goals and treatment planning. Ang goals and treatment planning is the assessment which is concerned with how improvement can be affected. Goals are seen as a composite of what the client sees and desires for himself and what he sees as possible and helpful. The worker takes consideration with the factors of time, agency, function, and worker skill. Goals may be ultimate, which may mean they are vague or general at the start, or proximate, clear, and specific, involving the themes to be worked on, the specific objects to be attained in the immediate future. So, treatment. Ang treatment kay mo na siyang ultimate objective of social work sa psychosocial approach. Kani mangod siya kay mo alleviate siya to the client's distress and decreasing the malfunctioning in the person's situation system. The dysfunction in the person's situation is gestalt, is primarily interpersonal, so that the aim is to bring about better interpersonal adaptations. So therefore, ang attention niya should focus on both the interpersonal system, including the parent-child, the husband-wife. So parent-child or husband-wife. And the personality system of the individuals who compose the interpersonal system. The treatment process change in the psychosocial approach is nag-growth and nagdala siya og two ways to change in psychosocial approach. And these are the indirect treatment and the direct treatment. So, ang functional approach. So, kaning functional approach kay the writer thinks that it is the particular applicability to the Philippines kay tungod daw of the countless social agencies servicing that is very varied to the client's needs. It is also an approach that the beginning of the social worker practitioner can learn to use skillfully based on clear understanding of what it involves. The functional approach to social work was first developed in the 1930s by the faculty members of the University of Pennsylvania School of Social Work, principally G.C. Taft, Virginia Robinson, and Ralph Smalley. It was Taft who introduced the concept of the use of agency factors. So napo siya three characteristics which differentiate it from the diagnostic social work. First is, it works from a psychology of growth and not from a psychology of illness. Second, the purpose of the agency guides the social worker's overall purpose, giving focus, direction, and the content to the worker's practice. Third, as the social work is viewed as a helping process through which an agency's service is made available, with the social work method having to do with the initiating, sustaining, and terminating of the process in a human relationship. The functional approach has a psychological base. It has also drawn from the natural, social, and behavioral sciences. The approach has also been enriched by the experiences of its proponents on what worked in the process of helping clients use social services. Like all other social work helping approaches or models, the functional approach requires a good grasp of the generic principles of social work practice. Although kani siya nga approach was developed in the context of social work, the social casework, ma-apply sa ni siya in work within the groups or the communities. Behavioral modification. This approach is based on behavioral theory, the key premise of which is that people repeat behaviors that are rewarded and abandon behaviors that are not rewarded or for which they get punished. Behavioral modification is an approach intended to improve the individuals, families, groups, and organizations by helping them learn new behaviors and eliminating problematic ways of behaving. Knowledge about this approach is very important for social workers, for us, because most of their interventive efforts are undertaken in order to change or modify some aspect of the behavior of their clients or the behavior of others who are participants in the professional activities. The three elements of social learning is essential to the practice of behavioral modification. First is the target behavior. Target behavior that will be focus of the intervention. Second is the antecedent behavior, which is that occur prior to the problem behavior. Third is the consequent behavior, the behaviors and events that is occurring after the problem behavior. The antecedent and the consequent behaviors are the ones controlling or maintaining the problem behavior. This antecedent and consequent behavior can be adhered through the use of specific behavior techniques. Among these techniques are the following. Social worker rules. The social worker can perform any rules in her use of behavioral modification techniques. First, direct modifier. Second is behavioral instigator and teacher. The developmental approach, people are not seen as being sick or healthy, but on a scale ranging from socially functional to dysfunctional or eufunctional, continually able to move up this scale in lifelong developmental process of self-realization. Socially functional is katong adequate. Ang dysfunctional is inadequate. Ang eufunctional kay good functioning. There are also three major things characterize the developmental approach. First is humanistic. Second is phenomenological. Third is developmental. The interactionist approach. The group work theory that is called the interactionist approach. It was developed by William Schwartz. He believes that the job assignment of social work in society for which it is held accountable is to mediate the process through which the individual and society reach out to each other through a mutual need for self-fulfillment. The mediating function of the social worker is a key concept in this approach. Function. Social work has for its focus of concern for the person's situation interaction, which calls upon practitioners to direct their efforts not dili lang siya daw sa person or sa situation, but to the relationship between the two. According to Schwartz, the function of social work is to mediate transactions between people and the various systems through which they carry on the relationship with society, the family, the peer group, the social agency, the neighborhood, the school, the job, and the others. Ang remedial approach, it is all about individual change through small groups. Nag-focus siya through the use of guided group processes in treating and rehabilitating individuals whose behavior disapproved siya or have been disadvantaged by the society. This could include the physically or mentally handicapped, legal offenders, emotionally disturbed, isolated or alienated persons, and those lacking in effective socialization.
There are three primary methods of community organization that has been developed in the recent years. So these are locality development, social planning, and social action. So locality development is the base of concept of broad self-participation from the local community. So ang locality development kay nakasenter siya sa mga tao within the community. Ang organization nakabase sa ilang participation. It is heavily process-oriented, stressing census and cooperation aimed at building identities and a sense of community. So second, social planning. So social planning is heavily task-oriented, stressing rational, empirical problem solving, and involve various levels of participations from many people and outside planners. Mauni ang kanang maobitaw ni ang contradictory sa local development kay ang method sa pag-organize sa ilang community kay need og mga tawo nga naa gawa sa ilang community. Mao na ang social planning. So last is social action. So ang social action kay kanang both task and process oriented. Mao ni ang pinaka-useful nga method sa pag-organize sa mga disadvantage segments of population. So mauni ang mga kanabitong mga poor, kanang lack of income. The models of community organization practice according to selected practice variables. So according to Jack Rothman, specifies a set of practice variables to describe and compare the approaches when they are identified in the ideal type of form. So here is a brief explanation of these practice variables to facilitate comparison of the three models. So first is goal categories. So goals in the community organization literature almost always refer to as task and process. Task goals entail the completion of a concrete task of the solution of a delimited problem pertaining to functioning of a community social system, delivery of service, establishment of new service, passing of specific social legislation. So process or maintenance goals are more oriented to system maintenance and capacity with aims such as establishing cooperative working relationships among groups in the community. So, muna ang first which is ang goal categories. So, second is assumptions regarding community structure and problem conditions. So, in locality development, the local community is frequently seen as overshadowed by the larger society, lacking in fruitful human relationships and problem-solving skills, and people by isolated individuals suffering from alienations and disillusionment. So, sa social planning aning assumption regarding community structure and problem conditions kay the planner is likely to see the community as comprised and substantive social problem. So conditions or a particular substantive problem which is of special interest to him, such as housing, employment, and recreation. So ang social action pud ani in social action aning assumptions regarding community structure and problem kay kuan, the practitioner would more likely view community as comprised a hierarchy of privilege and power. So ang third is basic change strategy. So ang basic change strategy ang in locality development ani kay the change strategy made to characterize as let's all get together and talk this over, an effort to get a wide range of community people involved in determining their felt needs and solving their own problems. So in social planning, aning basic change strategy kay the basic change strategy is one of let's get the facts, take the logical next steps. The practitioner plays a central part in gathering and analyzing facts and determining appropriate services, programs, and actions. In social action, the change strategy may be articulated as let's organize to destroy our oppressor. Crystallizing issues so that people know to their legitimate enemy is an organizing mass action to bring pressure on selected strategy. The fourth is characteristic, change, tactics, and techniques. So in locality development, kay tactics of consensus are stressed, that is discussion and communication among a wide range of different individuals and groups and functions. In social planning, sa characteristic change and tactics techniques kay fact-finding and analytical skills are important. In social action, conflict tactics and emphasize including methods such as confrontation and direct action. So, the fifth is practitioner rules and medium of change. So in locality development kay the practitioner's characteristic rules is that of an enabler or encourager. According to rules, the enabler rule is one of facilitating a process of problem solving and includes such as actions helping people express their discontent, encouraging organization, nourishing good interpersonal relationships, and emphasizing common objectives. So in social planning, more technical or expert rules are emphasized, such as fact-finding, implementation of programs, relationships with various bureaucracies and with professionals of various disciplines, and so on. The social action model is likely incorporate to advocate and activize rules. So mauna ang social action sa fifth. So sa sixth is orientation toward power structure. So in locality development, the power structure is included within an all-embracing concept of community. All segments of the community are thought of as part of client system. So diri sa kuan orientation toward power structure, ang kuan niya, ang social planning is the power structure is usually present as sponsor or employer of the practitioner. So in social action, the power structure is seen as an outside target of action. So mo na ang action. So the power structure lies outside the client system or constituency itself as oppositional or oppressive force via this client group. So ang 7 is boundary definition of the community client system or contingency. So in locality development, the total community, usually a geographic entry such as a city, neighborhood, or village, is the client system. Muna ang sa boundary definition of the community client system or contingency. So in the social planning, the client system might be either a total geographic community or some area or functional subpart of it. In social action, the client is usually conceived of some community subpart or segment which suffers at the hands of the broader community and thus needs the special support of the practitioner. So, ang 8 is assumptions regarding interests of communities subparts. So, in locality development, kay the interests of various groups and functions in the community are seen as basically reconcilable and responsive to influences or rational persuasion, communication, and mutual goodwill. In social planning, there is no purposive assumptions about the degree of intractability of conflicting interests. The approach appears to pragmatic, oriented toward the particular problem and actors named in it. So, the social action models kay assumes their interests among communities subparts are the variance and not reconcilable, and that often cursive influences must be applied. So, ang ika-9 is conception of public interest. According to Glendon, classifies concept of the public interest into categories: the nationalist, the idealist, and the realist. So, the rationalist view postulates a common good that can be arrived that through deliberate, passive involving a cross-section of interest groups within the population. So sa ika-10 kay conception of the client populations or constituency. So, locality development na po ani kay clients are likely to be viewed as normal citizen or possess considerable strengths which are not fully developed and who need the service of practitioner to help them to release and focus these inherent capabilities. So, in social planning ani kay clients are more likely to be consumers or services. Those will receive utilize those programs and services which are the fruits of the social planning process: mental health, public housing, recreation, welfare benefits, and etc. So sa kuan ani sa social action ani kay clients or constituents are likely to be considered as victim the system, such as slum landlords, discrimination, employers, city government. So sa 11, so mura maguro ni ang last ato. So the last is conception of client or constituent rule. So in locality development ani kay clients are viewed as active participations in an interactional process with the other and with the practitioner. So in social planning kay clients are recipients of service. They are active in consuming service, not in the determination of policy or goals, a function reserved for a planner or some policy-making instruments such as a board of direction or a commission. So in social action, kay the benefiting groups is likely to be composed of employers or constituents. So mura ni ang sa katong 11 ka buok. So in additional ang bitaw, to add the following are in the indirect models of intervention. So diri kay we mentioned previously the direct models. So in the direct models do not require concurrent problem-solving work with people. These inventions are working with elite documents and social criticism and advocacy. So sa working with elite kay this helping or intensive model involves working activities aimed at informing and interpreting to certain sectors of the community. Our welfare agencies, programs and services, as well as needs and problems with the objective and enlisting their support and or involvement in a social welfare activities. So, ang working with elite kay ang elite kay mao ni ang kanang dagko nga cooperation that holds philanthropical foundations mo ni ang elite. So sa kuan, furthermore, there is a need of consider the factors that make for the elite's real involvement and the support of social welfare programs and services. A frequently feedback received from the many representatives of this group is that agencies of think of when they needs and funds, and also many agencies reflect giving system reports on how their funds and use. And so sa ganina na akong giingon nga ang elite kay mao ni siya ang dagko nga corporation that holds philanthropical foundation. So last is napadi ay in working with the elite, the social worker should be guided by certain principles. Among these are the following. So need and resource determination and matching. So the agencies need what program, project, etc. requires the elite's services or participation, and there is resources that are appropriate what type of category of elite is needed. So second is clarify of purpose or objective. So the agency should be see to it that the objectives of the program or project in which the elite will be involved are properly understood by interpreted to them. So the third is involvement in program, project planning, and implementation. So whenever possible is appropriate, the elite should be allowed participation and involvement in project planning and implementation. They should understand the total plan of the agencies and how they fit in it. Their roles and responsibility. First is the unitary accountability. So the social worker and the elite individuals or groups should share accountability or the project program. So project program should be implemented as planned, and any modifications that will be made should be discussed and agreed upon with the elite who are part of this project or program. So sa fifth is the social workers should treat the elite with respect and organize their contribution to the agency. So they should guide and able them to perform their tasks effectively, not only for the success or the agency's project, but also for the elite to have sense of fulfillment and their own work. So lastly, and the last is professionalism in dealing with the elite. So the social worker behavior and action should leave to no doubt on the part of the elite as to her being professional. She should be able to demonstrate dedications, honesty, and competence among many other qualities necessary in social worker. So she should assume a stance to collaboration with the elite who are involved in her agency and never compete with them. So the documentation or social criticism. So this model of invention engages the worker in the documentation of the need adequate social welfare policies and program based on her knowledge, so gained from actual experience. So of the inadequacy or deficiency in these existing welfare policies and program, as well as on her belief in the light of her professional values and goals. So as how they ought to be. So the social workers are employed by agencies for the purpose of translating agencies' policies into service to clients. So the last is advocacy. So the advocacy model's invention is based on the reminds that the social work profession has a vital interest of its own success, in the pursuit of which will ultimately redound to the welfare of clients. So the pursuit of this vital interest dedicates that that the social worker be more than just amiable who helps or assists clients in solving their problems, which is the traditional concept to the social worker's role. And that's all.